Hello, it's Gerhard Bloom here once again with the tyranny and delusions of the social justice movement. Um, Once again, we're going to go on to elaborate on the autoimmune disease affecting the West. The West appears to be suffering a very serious, possibly civilizational canceling autoimmune disease. More and more people are forming the belief that the West is nothing but a history of oppression and imperialism. Well, this is no accident. This has been the ideology that's been talked about in the schooling system, or has corrupted the entire schooling system for decades now. From elementary school, junior high, high school, in through the universities, this oppression narrative, this biased, distorted redescription of Western history has been taught to children. It's an absolute lie. And there's many good resources to confirm that yourself. The 1619 Project is a sham. It's a complete mischaracterization and misrepresentation of the facts. And so kids are, and adults who know nothing of history and the Chinese imperialism, the swath of countries that Muslim jihad, the thousands of people killed, just the litany of horrors throughout history, and yet all of the oppression and tyranny is said to rest at the feet of the West. This is a lie. So our highest values are being dismissed. We no longer have the moral courage to speak out against the most egregious violations of basic human rights and affronts to dignity. Now, we've had our problems in the West. The West is unique insofar as it has accepted culpability for its past crimes. It has admitted fault. Has the Muslim world made apologies for its slavery? No, no, it hasn't. Genghis Khan, the people of Mongolia apologized to the world for Genghis Khan? No, no. The West has made its apologies, and more than that, it has made institutional and legal changes and constitutional changes to ensure the equal dignity of all human beings, regardless of their race, their color, and whatever backgrounds. So at the same time, the West is being criticized and condemned, and our practices and our institutions are racial and patriarchal tyrannies. We say nothing of the moral outrages that go on a regular daily basis across the globe. Now, I believe in human rights. Human rights. This is not a view that the world shares universally, which is, something of a paradox. Universal human rights, but they're not universally shared and accepted. Where did we get these human rights? What is their origin? Well, it turns out they're grounded in Judeo-Christian values. They're from the Bible. Man is created in the image of God. In the image of God, man is created. So we're all created equal in the eyes of God. So I believe that universal human rights is a reality, but that reality is not shared globally. So our highest values are being dismissed, and we are reticent to criticize barbaric practices elsewhere. Now, there's an urgent need to demonstrate our gratitude for our institutions. They have provided us the freest, safest, most tolerant society human history has ever known. This is a fact. This is demonstrable on every metric of well-being and freedom. We also require the courage to speak out on behalf of oppressed peoples elsewhere. Their voices are silenced under tyrannies of oppression and brutality. So we're told we live in a patriarchal rape culture. This is hysterical nonsense. The social justice warrior, in that smug, self-righteous tone of virtuous confidence, tells us that we live in a male-dominated rape culture. This is why a British member of cabinet can be forced down after revelations of an incident 15 years in the past when he placed an unwelcome hand on a woman's knee. By the way, the woman in question did not raise complaint or support the manufactured outrage, but his career is brought to ruin. Are we really expected to believe we live in a rape culture? The absence of intellectual honesty on this issue, as on Black Lives Matter, continues. There are large numbers of countries around the world where it is unsafe, day or night, for an unescorted woman to walk freely. Do these countries possess rape cultures? I'll let you make your own decision on that. I would note, it is no accident that none of these suspect countries is a Western country. Silence is violence? Where's the outrage for the shocking and daily culturally accepted treatment in the Muslim world? Where's their outrage at 9-year-old girls being condemned to a life of sexual and domestic slavery? Where's the outcry of the routine beatings or rape of women at the hands of their husbands? In much of the Muslim world, if a woman is raped, her husband will kill her. If she's unmarried, her family will do the honor. By killing the victim, the alleged stain on their abused honor will be cleansed. And the victim, what of her? Of course, women are sometimes given the option of marrying the rapist. And please note, I'm not speaking euphemistically here. These are not cases in which teenage lovers were discovered to have had sex and forced into a shotgun marriage. I'm speaking of a young woman raped by a complete stranger. And it's not unknown in these countries for men to deliberately target the woman of their dreams, to rape her, thereby compelling her to marriage. Women have routinely, in the Muslim world, acid thrown in their faces. Now, this is common in Pakistan, it happens in Bangladesh, India, Iran, the Balkans, Afghanistan. It happens for a number of reasons. Sometimes parents will throw acid in the face of their daughters for having looked at boys, right? And often jilted, some man who proposes marriage to a woman and is rejected will take out his revenge by throwing acid in her face. And yes, it happens under other circumstances and in other countries, but this is a phenomenon that's just out of control in several countries around the world. In Pakistan, a Muslim country, it's ubiquitous. And the stoning to death of women. No, this barbaric practice didn't end in the 7th century. It continues to be practiced today. And this is absolutely horrific. It's absolutely barbaric. There's a film, The Stoning of Soraya M., provides a moving insight to this terrible practice. So why does the social justice warrior not speak out against such madness, right? Why do they not express outrage for the continued practice of genital mutilation? Thousands of young girls die agonizing deaths as a result of this practice. If I were to cut off the genital tissue of a girlfriend with a rusty razor blade, I would be rightly condemned as a monster and hopefully jailed for the rest of my life. But the social justice warrior tells you, if it's an accepted practice, if it's embedded in another culture, who are we to condemn that practice? With a smug sense of intellectual superiority, they tell us that these practices represent deep cultural meanings and we have no right to impose our standards on them. That would be cultural imperialism, and they are simply too virtuous for that. Well, I'm not too virtuous for that. I know barbarism when I see it, and I can condemn it. I can condemn an office executive patting his secretary on the bottom at work. I think that's shameful, and he should be fired. But this is not on the same order of magnitude of stoning to death of women, female genital mutilation, and all of that associated horror. So although they're quick to condemn the patriarchal tyranny of the West, they say nothing of the shocking evils elsewhere. I'm hard-pressed to imagine an uglier example of moral hypocrisy. Do the women in the Islamic world deserve less than women in the West? It is to the West that these oppressed women seek help, acknowledgement, and a voice. They cannot speak for themselves. They will be jailed or killed. Indeed, they frequently are. The West must be their voice. When Ayan Hirsi Ali, a Somali-born woman who escaped this tyranny of tradition, attempts to speak out against these horrors, she is shouted down and subjected to social justice outrage. See, she doesn't understand Islam, but these social justice warriors, well, they understand, and it's a peaceful religion, don't you know? So they condemn her as an Islamophobe. When Majid Nawaz, a Muslim who is trying to reform Islam, attempts to speak out, he is treated similarly. Only those who endorse the ugliest, most repressive, and least tolerant aspects of Islam are seen as legitimate representatives. Why are we not allowed to hear from these people and from people within Islam who are trying to escape its tyranny? Why are we not allowed to hear those voices? And finally, how can something called the social justice movement be so unjust and yet filled with such a shocking sense of their moral superiority? It defies belief. It honestly defies belief. I hope you'll check out my book, Deconstructing Social Justice. It's available on Amazon. It's not important because I wrote it. I wrote it because the issues are important. And if you think I'm glossing over the facts or misrepresenting the evidence, you're wrong. You're wrong. There's almost 200 citations in that work from serious academic scholars. It's an important work. Thank you so much for your time.